Hey, hold on, don't go anywhere. So the church always talks about marriage, right? But why are so many marriages struggling and ending in divorce? As a therapist, I see all the time how spirituality without practical skills leads to pain and heartache and suffering. So this video, I'm going to cover 7 things the church never taught you about marriage. We're going to do it in about 10 minutes or less, all right? So number 1 is the most important, is that emotion is a language. It's a language of connection. And if you don't understand it, if you don't know how to speak it, if you don't know how to listen to it, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You're going to be like someone living in a foreign country without knowing the language. It's exhausting. And I see so many times people struggling. Either they don't feel like somebody understands them, or people are mad because they can't understand the person speaking. Like it's awful. And so the more you can learn to understand emotion, they're normal, they're healthy, they're part of how God made us. You can't get around them, you can't push them down, you can't stuff them. You also can't shotgun people with them. You got to learn how to speak it and deal with it. And I don't hear people talking about that very much. So emotion is normal and it's healthy, and your emotions are always real. Doesn't mean they're true, we'll get to that, but they're always real. And the more you learn to understand them and speak them, the better things will be in your life and in your marriage and in your relationships. Okay, that was number 1. Number 2, prayer is not a substitute for emotional intelligence. When you are struggling and when you are feeling a strong emotion like depression or loneliness or fear or anger, and someone tells you just pray about it, that can feel extremely invalidating. It is like a wall to the face. Obviously, yes, prayer is huge, prayer is essential, prayer is true, but there's a reason why there's an entire book in the Bible called the Psalms. There's a reason why David is crying out these raw, unfiltered prayers, right? It's more than just pray about it. It's expressing emotion. And as human beings in relationship, we need to be able to, number 1, read that language, understand it, and be with someone. And so, yes, prayer is good, but be aware you're not unintentionally invalidating someone else's experience by saying that, just because you're uncomfortable with it, all right? Number 3, along those lines, gratitude is half of the picture, but not all. And let me give you an example. You're really struggling, you're suffering, somebody, you're just having the worst time. Somebody goes, well, you have so much to be grateful for. Okay. Now that person is well-meaning. And yes, if you're alive, you have a lot to be grateful for. There's always something to think about. But again, in that moment, that can feel very invalidating. It's like, ugh, yes, but why do I still feel this way? And too often, what you might do either to yourself or to your spouse is you think you have to pick one. Well, I shouldn't feel sad because at least I'm married. Well, I shouldn't feel so lonely and disconnected because at least we're still living together. No, you don't have to pick one. You can have both. And I've found gratitude is an amazing tool. It's a gift to be able to help set the perspective, but not at the expense of your own experience. You don't laugh with someone who's crying. You meet them where they're at and you sit with them. And then once they've been comforted and seen, then you can start to go into things that you're grateful for, all right? But it's a balance. You don't have to pick one. You can have both. Number 4, along those lines, you need tactical skills. Hopefully I've been giving you a few along the way, but you can't just say pray more. You can't just say have gratitude. That's not a lot of tools. And I think about the verse in Corinthians. It talks about, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God made it grow. And that's about salvation, but I think it applies to relationships too. We know that God breathes life and heals our relationships. We know there's nothing we can do, but I don't want you to miss this. The verse talks about watering and planting. Now, can you water incorrectly? You certainly can. You can overwater or underwater. Can you plant incorrectly? You certainly can. You can plant in the wrong place or not have the right soil. Those are skills. Now, did you ever think about that? There's skills in relationship too, and maybe we need to learn how to do some of them, and maybe we need to talk about some of them. Maybe we need to just start watching this video and go, maybe I don't have any skills. I need to learn some. Let me give you one. It's called Rev. When you're learning the language of emotion, remember number one, you need to be able to Rev. R stands for reflect. I hear you saying. E stands for empathize. That feels like. And V stands for validate. When you're just starting out, try to remember that acronym. Let me give an example. I feel like I'm the worst YouTuber in the world. Okay? To Rev that, I hear you saying you feel like you're the worst YouTuber in the world. E, empathize. That sounds awful. That's probably really discouraging for you. And V, that makes sense because you're starting out and probably nobody knows who you are and you don't have a lot of feedback. So you probably can be hard on yourself. All right? That's an example of a tactical skill. I encourage you to do that. And if you're not doing that, try at least once a day. I promise you your relationships will improve. Number 5, conflict is not the same as fighting. Conflict is normal. Conflict is healthy. Conflict is part of maturing. It's what makes us grow beyond ourselves because we're challenged by somebody that we love and respect who sees things differently than us. Fighting is when we don't have skills, we don't have tools, we are out of control, we can't speak the language, and we just start doing all the horrible, terrible things that people do, like throwing and hitting and yelling and swearing, and never going to excuse any of that behavior. And if that's your experience, I encourage you, stand up for yourself, go get help. You're not called to be in that type of environment. That is not okay. That is not God's desire for you or anyone. That's not okay. But conflict where, why are we just not getting each other? Now there is a place you can grow, and there are things you can do in that. Start by going, how do I respond? What's happening in my body physiologically when I start to detect conflict? And that's my point is, no one is forever a people pleaser or just bad at conflict. Don't wear that. That's not your identity. That's not true. You just feel uncomfortable when presented with conflict and you haven't learned how to deal with it. The other part is true. You're not just an angry person. That's not your identity. That's not who you are. You just respond to conflict in the opposite direction and haven't learned any skills or tools how to work your way back towards the middle. Don't wear those. Don't give up. Just recognize conflict is your way to learn and press and grow and become more mature. Okay? Number 6. Acknowledging emotion is not the same as agreeing with the emotion. So where I talked about your feelings are always real, but they're not always true. This is a big one. It's really easy to acknowledge, yeah, you had a bad day at work. That's hard. That sucks. I get why that feels that way. But it's a lot harder when your spouse says, I feel like you don't love me. Boom. When you hear that, everything rises in you to defend, by a lot of us, or you want to argue with it. You want to say, well, that's not true. I do. And what you do, what happens is you, again, unintentionally invalidate that person's experience. If my spouse says, I feel like I don't love her, then that's her feeling, and that feeling is real. And the way I can show love to her is by being present in that moment and reflecting, empathize, validate. I'll give you another example of what that looks like. I hear you saying, you feel like I don't love you. R. E. Empathize. That sounds awful. That sounds horrible. It sounds horrible to feel like your own husband doesn't love you. And V. Validate. Let's see why she might feel that way. Well, when was the last time we've been on a date? You're right. Man, we haven't even been on a date night in months. I could see how you could feel like I don't care about you or I don't love you. I'm so sorry. That must be awful. That's my way to acknowledge the feeling and the emotion, but without saying it's true. Here's the kicker. Ephesians, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. The submission chapter, you want to know what that looks like in the day-to-day? That looks like everything in me wants to fight because I don't agree with my wife's feelings, but I can lay down my life. I can go, this isn't about me, this is about you, and I want to die to self. I want to love you even when it's hard, even when everything in me wants to defend. Okay? And that leads to number 7, which is pride. be aware of pride. So often we think, I'm not prideful. I don't think myself better than anyone. Okay, that's whatever. Here's how it plays out in the day-to-day in your marriage is when you know you are the best thing to do to heal the connection is to go back in the bedroom and say, look, I didn't handle that well. I'm sorry. But what keeps you from doing that, when you wait for her to make the first move, that is pride. Not being hard on you, I'm guilty of it. Of course I am. But I say this so that you can name it. And if you can name it, you can tame it. All right? Pride is the same thing that says, well, she should just know. Or he should know. The he should know is I hate that. I hate that line. That's the worst, because what it does is it's saying, I absolve myself of responsibility. It's all you, which is the most prideful thing you can do, is to say you should know. Nobody's a mind reader. Just let go of that. Give that up. Just as soon as you accept my needs and my experience is my responsibility and I need to communicate that as a grown-up, like, nobody knows your world and what you're thinking. You are the center of your own world. Your spouse is the center of their own world. You go through your day. Everything makes sense to you. It doesn't always make sense to your wife, and vice versa. Let go of pride. Name it. The sooner you can name it, the easier you can get back to connection and having a healthy marriage that you really want to have. All right? So those are 7 things the church never taught you about marriage. If this is helpful, drop a comment, like the video, subscribe, and join me on school.